Leslie, what the fuck? You can't focus, you can't hold anything straight, anything still. You're an embarrassment. Sam, you're from West Palm Beach. That is so fucking pathetic. You and all your Madoff people down there who are just crying poverty, these rich fucking Jewish assholes.
Joining us today, a friend, a very funny woman, Miss Susie Essman. Susie, welcome.
I actually knew you when you were a William Morris agent.
You know what? And I used to champion your cause. I wanted to get you signed. I don't know if you know that. I really went to bat for you.
Really? They had no interest. Years later, I became a client and then fired them. You know, the only time I ever, because I would be on stage and I'd look out and I'd see incredibly famous people all the time. You know, Warren Beatty and this one in the old years at Catch a Rising Star. And the only time I ever got like, was I looked out in the audience and I saw David Bowie.
What, really?
And that did it to me. That I got tongue-tied, I got all famished.
Right.
But
David
you could
Bowie.
see what you could see that.
No, he's a very charismatic figure. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, and he would walk into a room and he's so unusual looking that he would. What is it about rock and rollers? They walk into a room,
it's also something I think about music, and you know, I grew up with David Bowie,
Sure.
so it's such an emotional. I mean, I probably would have gotten that way if it was John Lennon too.
Sure.
But.
Yeah, there is a connection that is very, very deep. And actors, you go, well, they're playing a character, or you hope they are.
Right.
Even though with you, I'm sure you get it all the time, like, you know, why aren't you wearing the Susie Green outfit today?
No,
Susie?
what I get all the time.
Yeah.
Is, you know, look, I'm fat. Call me a fat fuck. Tell me to go fuck please curse at me. Please, just tell me to go fuck myself. Please. I'm walking down the street. I'm buying produce at West Side Market. Tell me to go fuck. They beg me to tell them to go fuck themselves. My life has become so bizarre. And I'm not in the mood. I'm living my life. I'm at the bank. You know.
Yeah, the teller's like, before I cash this check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Say fuck you to me.
You four-eyed fuck.
Yeah, you know, it's ridiculous. In a way, in a way, you know, my grandmother used to say, you make plans and God laughs. And I never would have planned that my life would have been this way, that I would have become beloved for telling people to go fuck themselves. I mean, it's just you just don't make
it's a cosmic joke.
No, you just don't make that plan in your life, that's how it ends up. But there's something about it that I really do enjoy it. I enjoy that's what I'm known for.
That notoriety.
Yeah.
What a great notoriety.
It's not notoriety for, you know, I don't know, being a great writer or a great singer or whatever. It's for telling people to go fuck themselves.
Do you remember the first time you cursed on stage when you were a young upstart?
No, I don't. I don't remember that at all.
Would you have a very blue house? Did your parents, did they go to it? And you were used to it?
It wasn't a very blue house, but it was not
when they really hit the boiling point.
Yeah, it wasn't like you're going to wash your mouth out with soap. There was none of that kind of. You got a sense that you were allowed to use certain language, you know.
Right.
You know, the interesting thing, like about Curb, for example, the language always seems not really the issue to me. It's more the content that I think is edgy about Curb. I mean, I'm really the only one that uses language like that.
Right.
It's really more the content than anything. And I think that people misunderstand the show in that way.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
I think that people think that it's, you know, it's you know, they're using 4-letter words. It's so beside the point on that show. Not sophisticated people like you, Dusty.
Oh, well, hey. But no, I got to say, this year Larry really pushed the envelope with issues that people are like really taboo issues.
Well, you know, I mean, just anecdotally, I could tell what people respond, because right when the show was on, I was on the road doing this book tour for my book, What Would Susie Say? Bullshit Wisdom About Love, Life, and Comedy by Simon,
That's a nice looking cover.
Yeah, they did it. Simon & Schuster did an incredible job, and it's a good book. I'm very proud of it. And it actually talks about those early comedy years.
Right.
There's some that's, part of it is memoir.
Right.
But, you know, then there's just funny parts. And I talk a lot about marriage and having 4 teenagers and menopause and hypochondriacal behavior and
Celiacs.
Religion, celiac and religion, and look at Jeff. Oh my God, just a lot of different things. But when I was on the book tour promoting it.
So Curb was just now starting to air the new.
Yeah, the book came out in October, and Curb started airing a couple of weeks before that. It was interesting, the comments that I was getting. I mean, for example, some people were appalled by the wheelchair episode.
Oh, I was going to say.
Just appalled.
Wow.
And it was interesting. It didn't even occur to me.
Right.
Didn't even occur to me.
Because you're in that art moment, so you know.
It didn't even occur to me. The only time, a couple times, I forget about the Jesus tear. That was like, you know, I was doing a lot of radio, and I had to.
Really? Did people really? I guess I remember, as a lapsed Catholic, I thought that was hilarious.
Well, it was hilarious, and it was misrepresented. You know, people were saying, well, he urinated on Jesus. No, he didn't whip it out and pee on Jesus. That's not what it was about.
Right.
There was a splash that went up
one drop
on a painting. It wasn't, you know. But
and it's good that we make this point here.
Yeah. You know, and I understand that. To some people that's offensive, and I do understand that, and I respect that, but I didn't want it to be misrepresented. So I don't want people to get the wrong, if what happened is offensive to you, I do understand that. But also I think that people have to realize that, does Larry sometimes go too far? Yes. That's what's brilliant comedy.
That's the show.
You have to push it. If you don't push it, he might as well be a juggler.
Right.
You know.
Well, look, Lenny Bruce did it. I mean, you know, if you go back, Shakespeare probably was pushing it, and people are going, "Oh my God!" You know,
he's talking about, you know, Hamlet having some Oedipal thing with his mother. I mean,
come on.
Yeah, but that was a big one. I was on a couple of right-wing radio shows that really were upset about that.
And so they really tried to paint you into a box with the whole.
Yeah, but you know, I think the trick is not to give them any energy. Like, I remember one caller on one of these shows in Chicago was saying to me, you know, it's not okay for him to be doing that, and so why should I come see your comedy show? I said, well, don't come.
Right. You may be offended.
Turn off the TV, cancel HBO.
Yeah.
Don't come to my show. Don't come. That's your right. That's absolutely your right.
But we've gotten so PC with everything. It's like, can you imagine this? I mean, when Saturday Night Live started, you know, and you thought, oh my God, no, you know, there were no boundaries really about what.
But I think that's one of the great things about Curb. When I get the outlines in the beginning of the season, and I have a whole chapter about that in the book, about the whole Curb process and the outlines.
And I happen to know because we did a whole thing on that.
Yeah, but it's different than any other show. And chapter 15 is all about some behind the scenes stuff and how I created the character and how we do the improvisation. Every now and then I get the outlines and I read something that I'm like, he's gone too far. For example, I think it was season 3 when he has, you know, the 4-year-old with the huge penis.
Right.
I was like, okay, this is going too far. For me, it's always a child thing. You know, for some people it might be a Jesus thing. For some people it might be a handicap. For me, it's always a kid thing. That's just me.
But there's a kid reference in every episode, which is really funny.
Yeah,
it's like the Tramp, Charlie Chaplin. There was always the kid, right?
That's true. That's true. I never really thought of that. Yeah.
See, I'm really watching intellectually.
That, and also when he had the child molester come to the Seder. Oh, yeah. See, that was another time. And yet, when I saw the finished product, I thought it worked, and he didn't go too far. So there's never been a time when he's gone. I mean, he's taken on everybody.
Absolutely.
The Orthodox Jews were upset about the ski lift episode because they felt that he was ridiculing them, which he was.
He was.
Because it's ridiculous behavior. So. Retarded people. Everybody. Tourette's. Everything.
Everything.
So
nothing is sacred.
Nothing's
but
sacred.
That's good if you do that. I think then you've covered your bases.
He's an equal opportunity offender.
Come on. Getting back to your comedy though, when you who were your mentors? Joan. I mean, who did you look?
Well,
Toady Fields.
I love Toady. Interestingly, when I was growing up, and I would watch all these people on Tonight Show and Ed Sullivan. It never occurred to me to be a stand-up comic because they were up there. I saw, and not just the women, the men too, Alan King, all these great, Jackie Mason. I'd watch them and they were telling jokes.
Right.
And I never knew how to write a joke. It never occurred to me. What I wanted to do was Carol Burnett. Sketch comedy and characters. And I'd watch Carol Burnett and think, that's what I want to do. I want to be Carol Burnett, you know. So being a stand-up comic was a completely other thing. I had never been in a comedy club once I had been in a comedy club until I actually got up in a comedy club and
Really?
performed. Yeah, I didn't know
Where was that first
world.
comedy?
It was a play, Chapter 4. It was a place
Chapter
called.
4.
It was a place called Mostly Magic on Carmine Street. They had an open mic on
Really?
Tuesday nights.
Mostly Magic.
Yeah,
on
and friends
Carmine.
kind of forced me to get up.
What was high school, college?
No, I was 28 years old.
Really? You
Yeah.
started that late?
Yeah, I was
What were you
28
doing
years old.
before that? I didn't
I
know
was
that.
depressed. I was a waitress for many years. I was taking acting classes. I was
So you really were pursuing the acting thing?
yeah,
and
yeah.
sketch
But I was in
comedy.
a deep, deep depression, and I think if I hadn't been in such suicidal, dark
Really?
despair. If I hadn't been in such a dark, dark place, I don't know if I would have done something so difficult and so desperate as to get on stage and try to make strangers laugh. I don't know. If I had been in the least bit satisfied with anything I was doing in my life, I don't think I would have gotten to that point and done it.
Wow. That's interesting. Was it a cathartic moment for you, or a light bulb moment, do you think?
Not that moment. That was a little bit later. There were, remember the Club Comedy U on
Sure.
University and 13th Street? Paul Herzig and Bert Levitt, who were running that club,
Right.
were there that first night and saw me. And they came over to me afterwards. They said, we're opening a club in a couple of months. We'd really like your phone number to come work there. I never thought I'd hear from them, and I never got on stage again. It was just, all right, I did it. It was kind of a dare.
Right.
A couple of months later, they called me and said, could you come down on a Sunday night and do 10 minutes? We'd really like you to, come down. I said, yeah. I didn't have 10 minutes. 10 minutes
Sure.
was like, 3 hours.
Yeah.
10 minutes of material was so much. I went down there, and they said, will you come back on our Thursday women's night? That's where I met Joy Behar.
Wow.
And Rita Rudner was the Thursday women's night, and
Wow.
Joy, and Margaret Smith, and Carol Leifer, and a lot of the women that were working at that time, and they kept on hiring me. And after about 3 months, I had only worked there. I was not going to go to the Improv and catch a rising star, and oh God, that was so intimidating. And they kept on giving me stage time. And after about 3 months, I was like, wait a minute, this is what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Right.
And then I started to really pursue it, and then start going uptown and all that scary stuff. Oh, it was scary. It's still scary, but then it was just
back the cream of the
God.
crop. It was, Belzer was the MC.
Yeah.
And it was Robin Williams would pop in.
Right. I remember one night in the very beginning, I had to follow him. I was slated. You could always get bumped.
Yeah, of course.
And he went up there, and he did maybe 45, 50 minutes.
Because it was on
and
Mork and Mindy.
Exhausted
Yeah.
the crowd. The crowd was just exhausted. And then I had to go. But those were the things that made me really strong as a comic. Doing the check spot.
Oh.
When I used to have to get the check spot. And
Explain what the check spot is.
Check spot is, on any given night, you'd have 4 or 5 comics on the show. And the check spot was when the check would go down, and they'd have like a 7:30 show, and then a 9:30 show, and then a 10:30 show. So the show had to clear out at a certain time. So the checks would go down, and people are watching you. All right, you had the gin and tonic, and you owe me $7, and you had to keep their attention. And I did so many check spots, and it made me really strong.
Really good cut.
Really strong. If you could, handle people in a check spot, you got really, really tough. So it was like I used to do, in the 80s, I used to run around on a Friday and Saturday night, and this was my bread and butter. I would do 7, 8, 9 clubs a night.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You do it geographically.
Yeah, of course.
You do comic strip and catch, then go downtown, do the Duplex, do Green Street,
Right.
do some other little club that just had a Saturday night thing,
Right.
Comedy Cellar, then go back uptown and do a late show at the comic strip, and finish at like 4 o'clock in the morning, go to the diner. That was your life. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was rock and roll. It was like a rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah.
The comedians, I don't know how it is today with the comedians, but there was a real camaraderie, I noticed.
And there weren't that many of us.
Yeah.
And we all knew each other. And it was, and you were young. You were young and foolish.
But when you would sit in the audience, were there any men and women that you really admired that you thought, oh my God, if I can get to that level?
Larry David.
Yeah, that's
Larry
true.
David
Larry
was the comedian's comedian.
Right.
And, he was brilliant. And he used to go on stage at Catch. And I emceed there I became like the house
Right.
MC there, which is another thing that made me really tough and strong. And, there's that point when you're saying, ladies and gentlemen, Larry David, and you're crossing the person's coming on, and they have a 10-minute spot, a 15-minute spot, And usually as the MC, you go out to the bar, you go to the bathroom. When Larry used to come on, when I MC'd, we'd pass each other and he would say, stay close. Because you never knew when he was just going to get off the stage.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He would. I remember one night he just looked at the audience and just went, got on stage, looked at them and went, never mind. And he just walked off. And you never knew when he was going to just explode and just walk off.
Gilbert was weird too.
Gilbert, you know what they used
the
to do?
The most brilliant. Oh, you just
Gilbert,
never knew what he was.
To this day, he's one of my favorite comics ever.
Absolutely.
But Gilbert at Catch a Rising Star, when it was late at night and the audience wouldn't leave, they put Gilbert on to clear the room out.
Because he was so out.
He was so. Now people know him.
Yeah.
It's an interesting. For me, I've seen that transition, the change between showcase performer, where you have to win them over, and headliner, where they come to see you.
They know you, they want that nuance.
It's completely different because they're there to see you.
Yeah.
It's still stressful because I always feel like, oh, now they're there to see me, so now I really have to be good, and now I have, you have to give them what they want. They're paying money, and so it's always stressful. But it's really, I think it's what every comic wants, is to draw.
Right. Sure. Of course.
Draw your audience.
You don't want to have to work hard at that.
Right. No, sometimes people give you things. Larry gave me the part on Curb.
Yeah, I always was curious about how that happened. He's putting a show together. Did you do episodes of Seinfeld?
No, I never did Seinfeld. I knew Larry from way back when, in the 80s, at Catch a Rising Star. And then I didn't see him for about 10 years because he moved to LA. He was doing Seinfeld. And then he did the pilot for Curb, which wasn't really a pilot, it was a special.
Right.
And before it even aired, HBO said, there's a series here, and he kind of realized that. And in the pilot, Jeff is his manager and is cheating on his wife once again, but you never see the wife.
Right.
So he wrote Jeff's wife into 3 out of the 10 episodes in the first season. And 2 of them were just innocuous. She was just Jeff's wife. But one of them, there was a scene where Jeff brings a Fresh Air Fund kid into the house, and the kid robs us blind. And Larry wrote that Jeff's wife just goes crazy on him. So he's thinking about this part and who could play this part. And I believe he auditioned a bunch of people in LA.
Right.
And then he saw me on the Jerry Stiller roast.
Oh, I love that roast.
The Friars roast of Comedy Central. And it was like, for him, it was a light bulb moment. It was like, Susie hadn't thought of me.
Right.
And he called Jeff, and I knew, Jeff was a comic in New York also in the 80s and 90s. He called Jeff, and he was like, Susie Essman, for your wife. Jeff's like, yeah, of course. And he called me up, and he offered me the job. And it was the most low-budget, slapdash operation you could even imagine. It was, I got day scale the first few seasons. It was just, we had no...
People think it's just because you're on HBO. This is one of the big fictitious aspects about cable TV. It's just like the budgets are very low.
Very low. I mean, at this point, I'm not complaining. It's,
no, of course
after
not.
season 7, it's fine. But, yeah, people see you on TV and they think you're rich, that I had, Seinfeld money. The first couple of seasons, we didn't even have trailers.
Really?
We didn't have dressing rooms. We didn't have after the 3rd season, I think, we finally got a trailer that we all shared. We all changed together and eat together and had one bathroom, and that was unheard. I guarantee you those girls on Sex and the City had trailers, each of them, from day one.
Probably,
we didn't have any of that. We were just like this. No script, no dressing room, we didn't have a hair person, it was just like, really, I got a barn, let's do a show. It was really like
But a real tribe, but I'm sure that really helped
It was so much fun.
The show.
It was so much fun.
The camaraderie. And
and the fact that it's improvised, it was just more, it was, we were just all together
So you're always riffing all the time and talking about everything?
And we all eat with the crew, which apparently is not normal. It's, it's a very, very loving set. Yeah. Very loving set.
So, the first couple of episodes, you see it. Did you know that, like, wow, we really, because I guess you always kind of think when you're doing it, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? When did you know? When did you know that the show had that magic and we're going to get renewed and, we're going to...
Well...
Was that after the 3rd season, the second
after
season?
After the 3rd season, I knew it was a hit because I could just tell anecdotally people coming up to me in the street. But the 1st season, I knew it was brilliant because I remember the episode we shot. And I didn't see any of the outlines for any of the other episodes, so I just knew what I was in. I didn't even see the outlines for our episode.
Really?
For my episode.
So you'd get on set and you hadn't read anything yet?
Yeah, the first couple of seasons.
Right.
Now I get all the outlines. But, however, interestingly enough, Larry doesn't want any of the guest stars to see the outlines. Because I see the outlines and Jeff sees the outlines. Cheryl, I think, gets the outlines, but she doesn't read them. She doesn't want to. She wants it all to be fresh.
Right.
But he doesn't want any of the guest stars to see the outlines because he doesn't want them lying in bed the night before.
Like the real actor.
Planning what their lines are going to be. Planning those bad sitcom lines.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he lets me because he knows I don't plan anything. I'm just totally in the moment. But I remember in the first season when we did the Beloved Aunt episode. And so I knew what the episode was about because I was in the scenes. And I remember just thinking, this is the most brilliantly funny thing I've ever seen in my life. I just knew that it was just magic.
A little pressure then for you?
No, I didn't feel any pressure because it's just so easy the way that we do it. I mean, there is a very detailed outline because Larry's all story. It's all about story. So you know what the scene is about. You know the information that has to come out in the scene. You know what the intent of the scene is. I knew who my character... Well, at the first season, I didn't totally know who my character was. I was still finding her. But at this point, I know who my character is. I know what my relationships are. And it writes itself. It really writes itself. And I never... This is the great thrill about doing Curb for me. As a comedic actress, I never have to think about trying to make something funny. Because I know that if Larry set it up, it's going to be funny.
Right.
All I have to think about is being in the scene and having the conversation that I have to have. I never try to make something funny, which makes it so funny.
Right. You're you're right there.
You're real.
Yeah.
You're in the scene. You're feeling what you're feeling. You're listening. You know, in acting, they always tell you talking and listening.
Right.
And when you're improvising, you really have
Really
to talk
listen.
and listen.
Yeah.
You really have to listen.
Yeah.
Because you have to respond. And it's just great. It's just so great.
Now, is Susie Green based on any of your friends growing up? Or is it a composite
She's
of
a composite.
Yeah.
She's a composite of a bunch of different friends' mothers and people I knew. And, you know, traveling around the country, the thing that I got the most from women was women all across the country, you know, in a mall in St. Louis, coming over to me and saying, "You're my idol. You're my idol. I wish I could talk to my husband the way that you could talk to your husband." And I just think, isn't that great that I'm releasing the inner shrew in women all across this great land?
The inner shrew. I like that. Really, that's the sequel to your book.
There you go.
Releasing the inner shrew.
Inner shrew.
I love that. That's fantastic. Oh, and maybe with that we should end. That was so good. Susie, thanks
you, Dusty.
as always.
Always a pleasure.
It's always fun to hear your stories. Neighbors now. You know, you still owe me a coffee.
Oh, absolutely. I haven't been around. This is the first week I've been around.
We're back into the new year, and when we can settle into the hood. And
I'll tell you all the good restaurants.
Yeah, because I don't know yet. You know, I'm still exploring. So many good Indian restaurants in this neighborhood.
Oh, yeah. Indus Valley on I don't want to say where.
What?
It gives away where we live.
Oh, yeah. Don't do that.
We live in Connecticut.